Hello and welcome to Mountain Valley Today. I'm David Holt, and today I have in the studio Mr. Nathaniel Ledbetter. Nathaniel, great to have you
It's
with
good
us.
to be here. Thank you.
Nathaniel just was recently elected to the House Majority Leader. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there is a big, important person in the room today.
Well, I don't know about that. It's still just me.
Well, I think it's a huge honor for you to be elected to such a great position as a freshman legislator.
It
so
is
tell
honor.
us about that.
Well, there's no question about that. I think what I've seen, we're the first freshmen in modern times. So it is an honor to have the colleagues put that much faith in you, and I'm certainly humbled by that and look forward to the challenges.
Well, I can tell you he sits on the next section over from me at church, and most of the time you're on time.
Yeah,
Occasionally Teresa's not ready, so
that's right.
you come
That's
when
right.
you can.
Yeah.
I've taught at least one of your children, and I've known you for a long time, and we're certainly glad to have you representing us at the legislative level and also to be elected by your peers to such a great position. You know, it's kind of humbling. I overheard a conversation yesterday. One of our senior ladies at church grabbed you and was telling you how proud she knew that your mom would be. And she also had a word, you know, do what's right.
Yeah.
And I thought those were great words of encouragement from that lady at church.
It was. I mean, the thing is, one of the reasons I ran for this position was our majority leader had stepped down, and I had a couple of the colleagues to call and ask me if I'd consider running. And actually, Teresa and I was coming back from church one day, and I'd gotten a call from one of our members, asked me if I would consider it. And the thing I guess struck me is the quality of people that serves in the Alabama legislature. I mean, we've seen the issues that's going on with the governor and the former speaker, and unfortunately, a lot of times media will put everybody in the same category as politicians, and that's just not the case. In the state, in the House, and in the Senate both, there's a number of those men and women that do the right thing. 98% of them are doing what they're supposed to do, and good Christian men and women, and want to do best for their district and the state. And I guess that was my reasoning for running, is to shine a light on good people, because some of the best people I've ever met in my life is in the Alabama legislature.
Well, again, we're honored to have you in that position. So let's talk about the legislative session. You're in there, you're working hard. So what do you see as some good things you can tell the folks today about what's going on currently in the legislative session?
Well, the next week, coming week, we'll be we got another week before we go on break, and we've already set the agenda. That's one thing. Being the majority leader, I get to meet with the speaker, and we kind of see what's going on, and we'll go back and set the general fund budget. The general fund is not where we'd like for it to be, but we're going to be able to level fund everything and put more troopers on the road, and try to get us to where we can maybe get in a better situation with the general fund. So we'll be talking about that right out of the gate, and hopefully get that passed before break. And then we'll have a consent calendar on Wednesday. This next week we'll have a 3-day work week, and which usually we have Tuesday will be a session day. Wednesday will be a meeting for committees to set the agenda and to vet the bills that's coming through. And then Thursday we'll have another session day, but this upcoming week we'll have 3.
Okay.
So that counts as one of our 30. We've got 120 days to get 30 in, so we'll eat up 3 of them next week. And then Thursday we have set the calendar for Pro-Life Day.
Okay.
Which is it's going to be very interesting for the people that's for pro-life and for the ones that's not. So looking forward to getting into that and maybe getting some legislation passed that's going to help our state.
And I think maybe people would be surprised to know how passionate people are on either side of any particular issue. That's all that's important to them, is the right side or the left side, and you're trying to sit in the middle and mediate between the two. I bet that's interesting.
It is interesting. We met with leadership from the Democratic caucus, I guess last Tuesday, the speaker and I did, and just to kind of tell them what we had in mind. And they were very adamant about that they were going to fight everything we did on Pro-Life Day. And that's their side, and you got to be respectful for what they do. But we're looking forward to the challenge. I think at the end of the day we'll have some good bills come out that'll wind up going to the Senate and getting passed.
Now, how long is the break you're talking about?
We got 2 weeks.
Okay.
Last year we just had a week. This year we'll have 2 weeks, and that's probably not a bad thing. I mean, once you get in there and you start debating and trying to line things up, whether it be the budget or the pro-life issues or the prison or bills or whatever, you know, it can get contentious sometimes. So everybody,
People need a break.
they need a break. Yeah, everybody wants to plead their case, so they certainly need a break. So it's coming at a good time.
So tell us about the prison issue. I know we've heard a little bit of talk about that on the news. Where do you see that bill going, and compromises or whatever you see happening with the prison?
I think there'll certainly be compromise. You know, the governor had come out with $800 million prison bill to be financed for a 30-year period, which was equate to about $1.5 billion. And it's probably a heavy lift. I don't see that bill coming through the way it was started by the governor. I think we'll have some compromises, and in the last couple of weeks there's been some things that's going on. I think that'll be promising to get that bill through, because we need to do something. There's no question about that. We've been at about 200% overcrowdedness, and we're down to about 170 now because of legislation we've passed. So I think we'll see some things happen. Maybe it will move it along, and I don't think it's going to cost that kind of money to get where we need to be.
Do you think an option would be to build one and see what happens, and then decide if you need to expand that?
I think that is part of the option. I think
Okay.
you know, Tuckweiler prison is the one that needs it the worst. That's the women's prison, and so we'll probably wind up. And this is me thinking out loud, but I think we'll wind up maybe constructing the one prison, and I think probably what you'll see is some of the players that has got involvement in it, like some of the counties, Elmore County or somebody that's got a prison in it, may come to the plate and say, you know, we want to be a part of that to keep it in our area. So if that happens, that's going to be a win for everybody.
Well, that was my question. Do you think it'll stay in the same area? You think there'll be a brand new area selected?
You know, it's hard to tell. The way it come out to begin with, when you cut in that many prisons, and it's going to affect a lot of different communities. So I think we may see maybe the one prison, and maybe redoing some of the other facilities, and maybe some of the counties getting involved to help out with that. So I think it's going to be one of the bills. Once it's all said and done, I think we'll be pleased with the outcome.
Well, tell us a little bit about what's going on with infrastructure, getting products to the port and back. I know we talked a little bit about that last year. I'm just curious if that's come back to the table again.
It has come back to the table, and we'll be looking at it. I don't know right now if there's much of an appetite for it, but it's certainly going to be something that will be under consideration, and we'll look at it and see if there's anything that appeals to the members. You know, the thing is, I don't want to put my members in a bad vote. I mean, and if we don't have the means to pass it in the Senate, then there's no use us voting on it. And so I think we've got to play all those issues and see how it comes out, and kind of work between the two, and make sure that we do the right thing.
Is there something that you're particularly behind and you're supporting, you're bringing to the table that you'd like to see passed, and what kind of momentum do you see that going?
It's I do have some bills. The thing that happened, I had a couple of more bills that I've actually passed off. One of them was a monument bill. I had it and was carrying it this year, and I've asked Mac Butler, a friend of mine out of Gadsden, to carry it, because the change of roles has kind of dictated that I do some of that. I've got one bill that we've worked on for a couple of years I'm excited about, and it's about rural health care. And it's kind of a concierge doctor, or from a rural standpoint, it wouldn't include insurance. So what would happen if your family needed a primary care doctor, you'd just pay a certain amount a month, and you'd go to him as many times as you wanted to go, and that's it. I mean, there's no filling out insurance papers or anything like that. And the thing that we found out, we've got one doctor in DeKalb County doing it now, and I think and he's just been in about 6 months. He's got over 200 patients, maybe between 200 and 400, I think is what he told me. And over half of those don't have any insurance at all. So I think it's a model that we can use to help us on our health care problems, and I'm excited about getting that passed.
Well, he was on the show not too long ago, and I was really intrigued by the concept. You just pay a monthly fee, you go to him, you have access to him, there's a gym, there's medications at a discounted price, cuts out the middleman of the, I would say, pharmacies. So I thought that was really unique.
It is, and the thing about it is the way it's set up now, especially with the Affordable Care Act, about 80% of the time in the doctor's office is spent on insurance, getting it filed, getting the claims met. And the way this model works, about 80% of the time the doctor's seeing the patient. So it almost flips how much time they spend with the patient. So.
And I believe there's only one in the state. Am I correct? Or is he the only one in our area?
He's the only one in our area that's trying this. It's a different model. I mean, there's I think 20 other states has already passed this legislation. So I think it's a good piece of legislation. We'll get it through committee. Not this week, but when we come back, I've already got it set up to go through committee. So I think we'll be fortunate enough to get it out. So.
Well, I tell you, it's very novel for someone like me who's always had insurance. But that's the other thing. You can carry insurance, but it will be like major or catastrophic insurance for hospital stays and things like that, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, yeah. That's correct. You would have your catastrophic insurance in case you had a medical issue that would take care of. And then, you just pay out a monthly fee for a primary care doctor.
Is there another one you're supporting, really behind?
Well, of course, the monument bill, I'm behind it strong. Like I said, I was carrying it until the change of roles, and I think it's a good bill. And the thing about it is, it just gives us an opportunity where our history stays intact, good or bad. I mean, it's history, so we gotta, I think, for our children and our grandchildren to know how we were. How we come as a state and how things went on in the past is important.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing, I've got a bill that's going to put police officers and firefighters on Tier 2 with retirement, which I know you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And I met with them last week. They come to my office and we sat down and talked, and they figured out a method where it's almost going to be revenue neutral.
Okay.
Very little expense to the city. I think it's 1% more on their salary. So I think that's a good bill for those people because, by the time they go through 25 years of fighting fires and being a police officer,
they need a good retirement.
They need a good retirement. And so that's one thing we're trying to do. And, it's we've got to opt out for the cities. Now, the ones that I talked to was from Huntsville. And Mayor Battle is for it 100%. So I think the speaker and myself is going to co-sponsor that bill.
Okay.
So I talked to him Friday, and we're going to try to get it on the floor this week. Or I'm going to drop it tomorrow or this week, and we should have it in committee next Wednesday when we come back as well. So I think we can move it right along. So
how has your perspective changed in this role from what you were before? I mean, I've always learned that the more of the sitting at the table when you can make some decisions and you can understand more of the leadership roles. How has your perspective changed in this new role?
Well, I think you always need to look at the whole picture. I mean, I think that's always been something that from my standpoint, and certainly when you're in a leadership role, you've got to do that. Yeah. And that I guess that's the thing, and you got to try to make sure that everybody is kind of taken care of. Just today I talked to a couple of members in Montgomery that's kind of in a tough vote on our budget, and I told them, I said, don't worry about that. Just you do what you need to do, and then we'll come back together after that's over. So, there's certain times I think you have to understand that people in their districts are in different issues, and they certainly are down there. Because of the number of state employees they have, so I think we got to be cognizant to that and work with them when they got issues like that. So.
Well, it's not your first rodeo. You've been on city council, you've been the mayor, so you understand this concept of helping see the bigger picture, bring everybody to the table, and working out compromises. And you can't always agree.
Well, you can. I think sometimes you have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And
be friends when it's over.
That's right. That's right. And that's why we've had a problem in our caucus with a divide and trying to pull it back together. And we've set up some new committees and got some folks that we're putting in. The thing is trying to utilize everybody for their talents. And we've got a ton of smart people and very articulate people and trying to put them in a position where they can be successful. And I think that helps us as a whole, because if like you say, if they're successful, we're all successful. So that's one of the things we're trying to do right now.
What do you see as our major controversy coming where everybody's going to dig in and fight and it's going to be hard to get anything accomplished?
You know, the heavy lift is probably going to be the prison bill. I think that's going to be one that different sides are going to dig in. To be honest with you, the pro-life bill is
Okay.
going to be it's like you said, very passionate. People are very passionate about the side that you're on, and you got to respect that. You know, me and you may not agree with the other side, but you got to respect it. You know.
That's a very positive way to say the heavy lift. I haven't put it that way before, but maybe that's your new role speaking. You know the next word to say. It's not an argument, but it's a heavy lift.
It's a heavy lift. Well, and we one thing that we've got some issues in the state, you know, with Medicaid and the growth of Medicaid. And I told our members the other day, I said, we talk about the problems we have in the state. What we have is opportunities.
There you go.
We've got an opportunity to try to fix Medicaid, and hopefully with the block grant that the president's talking about, I think that will enable us to not to kind of quit the bleeding, maybe stop the bleeding. So, you know, the thing is, we don't really have a budget problem in Alabama. We got a Medicaid problem. I mean, when in 2010 we spent $399 million, and this year we'll be right at $900 million.
Oh my goodness!
So
that's a huge increase.
it's unbelievable, and you know, and we're going to be 45 million short this year of what they want. But I mean, you know, there comes a time where we've got 45% of the general fund money is going to 25% of the people. So I think we got to look at that equation and try to do what's best for everybody.
Well, tell us some really positive things going on in the state. I know you travel around, you see lots of stuff, and you know, people are always talking about negative. I mean, we can talk if we wanted to go off on the thing about the governor's impeachment proceedings, but there's more positive things to talk about. What are some good things you see as coming that we can tell our members about?
Well, I think one of the things that we see in our area especially is job growth. I mean, we're starting to see jobs come back from the sock industry in the last few weeks, and you know, there's been over 400 jobs announced coming back to our county, and I think we've got a plant coming that we're going to announce probably 150 to 250 more jobs. So
Wow.
I think that's positive. I think you know, some of the legislation we've passed, we've been able to put computers and technology into our classrooms for the first time, you know, in DeKalb County.
Yeah.
I think that's important, and working with Central Livingston and the state highway director, we've been able to do a lot of road improvements in my district, and I'm excited about that. And you know, we've been able to get some money for infrastructure for sewer rehab. So those are some things. Without infrastructure, you can't grow the economy.
You're exactly right. And you know, in our little town of Rainsville, Alabama, if someone hadn't fought that battle years ago to bring a nice state-of-the-art sewer system, there's a lot of things, industry we wouldn't have in this community without forefathers fighting those battles that weren't pleasant back then.
Well, that's true, and you know, you got to go through the valleys to get up on the hill sometime, and I think they did that here and fought those valleys in Rainsville to do that. So, and I think our kids and our grandkids are going to benefit from that.
I haven't talked to the guy at Fort Payne about the tourism industry in our community, but I hear that's really on the upswing. It's not a heavy lift; it's a light lift.
Yeah, yeah. It's something positive for our state. You know, we passed that, or we asked the people to vote as a constitutional amendment to keep the state park farms from being moved from the state park, and they voted overwhelmingly to do that. And from the first time in many years, we've been able to set some rehab to those parks, and DeSoto being one of them. You know, there are going to be some renovations going on out there.
Long overdue.
Long overdue. But the people spoke, and that's what they wanted to do. So we're going to see that and benefit from it.
One of the things that I'm interested in is career tech development. I know there's a little bit of an issue with the state school superintendent, the state school board. So you got any words of wisdom about that?
Yeah, I think we're going to be fine. You know, the thing is, I had a meeting last Tuesday, and the speaker and I meet every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. And before I got there, he was in another meeting, and it just happened to be with Dr. Sentence about the issues with career tech. And I think that has been resolved. The thing that I see is, you know, in our education system, one of our shining stars to me is career tech. And I think we need to leave it alone and try to pamper it to make it better. Or, you know, we talked about the rolling reserve. We changed that a couple of years ago where we could put technology in the classrooms and also to help promote career tech. So I think the best thing we can do with that, I think he's figured that out too, because a lot of people are very passionate about that. So I think we're going to be fine.
Well, you know, there's a lot of people that got in an uproar over that, and some of them wanted to go, and some of us were held back from going. So I'm glad you guys handled that.
Well, you know, I think it was one of those things where everybody come together and kind of let their opinions be heard, and it worked. I mean, you know, this is the people's government, and if they see something they don't like and something they don't want changed, then the best way to do it is to address it. And they certainly did in that situation, I think.
Well, and addressing it is one thing I was going to lead into next, so that's a good segue. How do you, I know you want input from your constituents, so how is the best way to share with you what the rank and file members feel and feel like you should be understanding where they're coming from? Is the best way to call the number we see in the newspaper or send you an email, or are you going to take me out to lunch? I mean, I don't know which is best.
All of the above, all of the above. And we try hard in our district to go out and have community meetings. And before the session started, Senator Livingston and I had one in Rainsville and had a tremendous turnout. And yeah, I think that it gives people an opportunity to sit down and talk to you and air out their opinions and discretions, and it gives us an idea of what people are thinking. So we do that all over the district. Of course, you're welcome to call me anytime. I mean, I'll always call you back, or fortunately, we've got some folks that help us get back in touch with you. So, you know, we'll get back with you if you got a concern or an issue that you're interested in. One of them, you know, it's kind of interesting you brought that up. Senator Livingston and I had a bill last year, I guess it was, that I got passed. I had a young man that come to me that had been abused at a young age and had actually wound up losing some of his hearing because of the abuse. And he'd got out and got like 1,200 signatures of people that wanted to get a statewide car tag against domestic violence. It just to let people know, you know, if you're in a situation, you can get out. Yeah. And we carried that bill and got it passed, and now there's a domestic violence car tag for the state of Alabama. So, you know, it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you know, we're going to listen to you, and if there's something we can do, we'll certainly try, and I think that's the proof of it. But I applaud him for his willingness to be engaged in the process.
And it took just one regular person who felt like this was something to do and worked hard, and you worked hard with him, and it's an opportunity that a lot of people can support and bring awareness to, I guess is the word.
It will. And on top of that, of course, it's a personalized tag, so every county where those tags are purchased now, that money goes directly to domestic violence in that county.
That's amazing. Well, how is it that you're able to balance work and home and grandkids and that kind of stuff? Because I know you're on the road a lot and people want your time, and you want to be engaged with them as well. But how do you balance that as a House Majority Leader?
That's a good question. I need to ask
Maybe
my
I should
wife,
bring Teresa in here and ask her that.
You know, we've always been involved in the community, and of course now being retired from my real job, as I'd say, and Teresa and I own a small company, but we got good people working for us, and they more or less take care of the day-to-day. If it wasn't for that, we couldn't do it. But you do juggle your time. There's no question about that. And of course, our grandkids are a priority. So if they're playing,
who does not have grandkids as a priority? Those of us who don't have them yet, reckon?
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. So those things change. But you know, the thing about it is, somebody asked me the other day, said, "Man, I can't believe the pressure you're probably under." And I think pressure is something you put on yourself. And I found out the older I get that if I've got a tough situation, I'm pretty good to say, okay, you know, God, this is yours. You just tell me what we need to do and we'll go. So that's made it easier for me just to realize that there is a higher power on those tough decisions or tough issues where you say, you know, this is yours.
Yeah.
So
Give me a piece about which way to vote.
yeah, I mean that happens, you know, and I think if you got a tire or a drag in your heart pulling you in a certain direction, that's a pretty good sign. And Brother Sims, we had in Sunday school the circle maker, and a few years back, and I realized then, you know, if there's a decision I got to make and I can't get it off my mind, if it really dwells on my mind, then I probably need to go in a direction that I'm being led. So I think that helps.
Yeah.
There's no question in my mind it's made a difference in my life.
So tell me what you did to relax. I know you had a lake house for a while. You had a house in the Smokies for a while, and unfortunately that no longer there due to the drought we had and the fire.
Yeah.
So how do you just relax? How do you get to the end of the day? Some people flip channels. I don't know who would do something like that.
Yeah.
You know, some go for walks, some fish. What do you do to relax?
You know, my wife tells me I'm a workaholic, and I don't, you know, and sometimes I know it's kind of odd, but some people it's different. But I like being busy, so if I've got something I think I need to do, I do it. And I try to play a little bit of golf. I don't play much because I think it takes too much time, and there's something else I need to be doing. So I fish a little bit, especially if crappie's biting. I love to crappie fish, and my grandkids, every time they get to the lake house, that's what they want to do is go fishing. So we wind up going fishing. I enjoy being with the grandkids, you know, and trying to spoil them every chance I get.
Well, who cleans the fish? Is that your job,
That's
or is that
my
your
job.
son?
No, that's my job. If we catch enough to clean, it's usually my job. So.
And Teresa cooks?
Yeah, she does. Teresa's a very good cook, and you can tell that by looking at me. So.
Well, I didn't mean that, but you know, I'm trying to brag on her just a little bit because I'm sure she'll tell me if this is wrong or not.
Well, I mean, of course, you know, I mean, I couldn't do what I'm doing if it wasn't for the support of my wife and my family, and so.
And you know, that old saying is true: behind every good man is an even better woman.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly right in my situation.
So, Teresa, when you watch this, we're bragging on you today. Maybe I should tell her I need a pay increase. You reckon?
She might double it. So.
She might do that. It wouldn't cost her much at all.
Yeah.
But it's certainly a joy to talk to you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we close out today? We're getting close to the end of our time, but you know, is there something we can do to help, be a part of the process, other than just pray? I mean, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the thing about it is, it's a humbling experience. I mean, to be a freshman and have the opportunity and to come back, I had hundreds of phone calls and texts from people in my district and friends and family and church members, and I'm gratified. I mean, I come back home after being in Montgomery after the election, and my campaign signs are up with a congratulation across in front of them. So, you know, that's the biggest thing, is to say how grateful I am to be able to serve what I consider the best people in the country right here.
Well, and you know, sometimes it's amazing the path and the journey that God puts you on. You know, where you come from, what you've experienced, and how He uses those experiences to get where you end up.
Well, I think it is. And that, you know, one thing I spoke to our members about, I think God wants you to do what He wants you to work hard to accomplish, what you try to accomplish. But I'd heard somebody quote, if you want to hear God laugh, tell Him what your plans are. So I think he has.
Hey, listen, that old song, Thank God for Unanswered Prayers, that Garth Brooks did, you know, there's a lot of things I prayed and I thought that I wanted, but I'm so thankful sometimes that those did not get answered.
Yeah, and you know, I think he puts you in a situation He wants you to be in. So in the back of my mind every day when I do my job as majority leader, I have that in the back of my mind. You know, God's put me here for a reason, and I need to abide by that.
Well, Nathaniel, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
You've been watching Mountain Valley Today. We hope you'll join us again next time.